Hello guys, today we'll be covering a 2016 drama film called Hunt for the Wilderpeople. As the movie begins, we meet Ricky Baker, a juvenile delinquent who was abandoned by his mother when he was a small kid. As a result, he's taken by Child Welfare Services Officer Paula and Police Officer Andy, who are searching for foster parents for him. Finally, they find a willing family as Ricky is taken to live on a remote farm with foster aunt Bella Faulkner and her husband, the cantankerous southern man Hector, or Heck. Before handing him over to Bella, Paula warns her about Ricky's violent behaviors and all of his past doings. Even though Bella is concerned after hearing all this, she agrees to accept Ricky as the newest member of her family and seems to take a liking to him. On the other hand, it's clear that Heck doesn't like the new boy and stays pretty much away from him. On his first night in Bella's house, Ricky tries to run away carrying a torchlight, but passes out on the field. The next morning, Bella finds him asleep and takes him home where Heck has prepared breakfast for him. With passing time, Bella quickly manages to break through Ricky's defensive shell by taking him hunting and spending time with him, and in the meantime, learning his behaviors. Next, on his 13th birthday, Bella makes a nice little cake for him and the family has dinner together. And as for his gift, the old couple gives him a dog, which he names Tupac after his idol Tupac Shakur. From that day onwards, Ricky spends most of his day with Tupac, training him or simply playing with the dog. One day, Ricky sees Uncle Heck crying, and he immediately realizes that something is wrong. It turns out that his beloved Auntie Bella has died. However, we still see no tears on Ricky's face, even though he's grown very close to her. After returning from Bella's funeral, Heck receives a letter that informs Ricky that Child Services will take him back since his guardian Bella is now dead. However, Ricky doesn't want to go back as he's already used to living on the farm, even without Bella. As a result, he suggests several ideas to Heck which can prevent him from being taken away by Child Services. But Heck already knows that, no matter what, Ricky will eventually be taken away and indirectly tells him not to get attached. Later that night, Ricky ineptly fakes his suicide by burning a barn with his clothes and runs away into the bush with Tupac carrying a gun. Contrary to what he had hoped for, Ricky finds it very hard to cope in the jungle and quickly gets lost. Soon enough, Heck finds him easily, but Ricky denies getting lost and claims he just wants to live in the jungle. Still, he quickly agrees to go back with Heck, and the two of them make their way through the jungle. After a while, Ricky learns that Heck is illiterate and starts making fun of him. As a result, Heck is provoked and breaks his ankle in a fall. As he screams in pain, Hector blames Ricky for his situation and shouts at him. Next, Ricky helps Hector to get up and the two are forced to camp for a while since Ricky cannot go off on his own. Meanwhile, when the authorities find the house empty and the barn burnt down, they conclude that the bereaved and mentally unstable Heck has abducted Ricky. As a result, Paula, along with the police, decides to hunt for Hector. One day, as Heck is resting, Ricky decides to go and hunt with Tupac. As expected, Ricky fails miserably and returns back empty-handed. Hector, on the other hand, manages to catch an eel down the creek. That night, the two sit in front of the campfire and chat for a while. Ricky asks him about the eel since he was badly injured and shouldn't be able to do any hunting. However, Hector explains that anything is possible in the wild if one follows the three basic rules: stay calm, look for water, and find the high ground. Shortly after, Ricky opens up about his only friend in foster care, Amber. According to Ricky, while they both were adopted by separate families, Amber was found dead one day, but he never learned the cause. After a few days, Hector's leg heals and he's able to walk again. Soon, the pair arrive at an abandoned hut where they learn that the police have set up a manhunt for Hector. Moments later, Heck and Ricky encounter three foolish hunters, Joe, Ron, and Hugh. At first, they suspect that Heck must have kidnapped the child and plan to take them to the police tomorrow. However, as they converse, the trio of hunters eventually end up thinking that Heck is a pedophile and is molesting Ricky. Heck tries his best to explain the situation to them, but they're simply too stubborn to understand. After engaging in a fight with them, Ricky saves Hector and the two of them quickly get out of there. On the way, Hector reveals that when he was young, he was sent to jail for manslaughter. This means if Hector is somehow caught by the police, they'll bring a strong case against him. In response, Ricky tells them that his only options are risking the same fate in the foster system or serving time in juvenile prison. As a result, the pair agrees to disappear into the jungle and hide for a while. Next, a massive national manhunt ensues for the pair, and the two slowly bond while working together to escape arrest. The two mostly spend their time walking, hiding, hunting, and stealing goods from other people. One day as they're wandering, They arrive at another hut and go inside to check. Thinking that nobody's inside, Hector quickly starts looking for food items or anything that might be useful to them. Meanwhile, Ricky is busy going through the books he found on the shelf. To their surprise, they encounter an old, unconscious, diabetic ranger sleeping in one of the corners of the hut. Heck decides to stay with the ranger and sends Ricky and Tupac to find help. On the way, Ricky runs into a girl his age named Kahu and asks for her help. As a result, Kahu takes him back to her house and introduces him to her dad. They immediately recognize Ricky since his face is broadcast almost daily by the news channels. Nevertheless, Kahu and her father are super friendly to him and ask him to stay for the night. That night, Kahu and Ricky spend time together talking and playing guitar, and he soon dozes off. The next morning, Ricky hurries back to the hut where Heck was supposed to be. Instead, Ricky finds the place swarming with police, led by Paula and Andy. However, Heck is nowhere to be found, and Ricky runs away to look for him. He remembers the survival strategies taught by Heck and tries to figure out what Heck would do in a situation like this. Meanwhile, we see that the police are swarming through the jungle looking for the pair. Also, we see media journalists there as well, doing cover stories on Heck and Ricky. The police even set up a bounty of $10,000 for anyone who helps them to catch the rogue kid and the old man. Some days later, Ricky encounters Paula and Andy in the bush, separated by a ditch that's too steep for them. Paula attempts to bribe Ricky, asking him to say that Heck was a sex offender and that he forced him to run away. In return, she tells him that he'll never go to a juvenile prison. But Ricky immediately declines this proposal, claiming he'll not trade family for anything, and runs away. Eventually, Ricky catches up to Heck by remembering the survival strategies Heck taught him, and they continue their travels. On their way, they once again encounter the trio of hunters that they met earlier. However, this time, Heck holds them at gunpoint while Ricky goes through their inventory looking for anything that they might find useful. Finally, they confiscate their guns and the pair continue on their path. Soon they encounter a wild boar that mortally wounds Heck's dog, Zag. He jumps in to save his dog but gets overthrown by the boar. As the boar comes running in at Heck, Ricky stands in front and shoots at the last moment to save him from the beast. However, it's already too late for Heck's dog, and he's heartbroken to see his dear companion in such a state. Having no options left, Heck is forced to euthanize the dog while Ricky protests that he can still save him. After that, they set up a grave for beloved Zag, and Ricky reveals that he's been carrying Bella's ashes all along. Ricky had originally planned to deliver the ashes to where the earth wets the cloak of the sky, as per Bella's wishes. However, they bury Zag and scatter Bella's ashes into a remote waterfall high in a mountain range and continue on their journey. With the passing time, the winter snowfall begins, and the pair is seen on the move as always. Meanwhile, Paula, Andy, and the police are also seen hunting for the rogue pair along with a trio of hunters. Eventually, the police catch up with the pair, and they're forced to run once again. Luckily, Heck and Ricky manage to evade them yet again, and they continue on their journey. On their way, they come across a man who dresses like a bush to hide in the fields. The man reveals that he's been living out on his own, and he's called Psycho Sam. Realizing that Sam is no threat to them, Heck and Ricky agree to go with them, and he lets them stay the night. That night, Ricky and Heck talk about their journey together so far. Ricky has even written a poem about it and reads it to Heck, who likes it very much. When Ricky asks Heck about his own children, he reveals that he and Bella couldn't conceive because of his own shortcomings. Therefore, they decided to adopt Ricky because Bella always wanted to have kids. Ricky feels sorry for them and says it's not fair to them since some people cannot have babies, while some abandon them like his own mother. The next day, Ricky gets up and realizes that the police are nearby. As it turns out, Sam connected Ricky's cell number to a fake cell phone tower set up by the police to track them. Ricky quickly warns Hector and Sam starts panicking. As the police force draws nearer, Sam offers them his truck, and this leads to a wild car chase. Eventually, the whole police force, the army, helicopters, and even tanks join the chasing party. But Ricky still doesn't stop and keeps plowing ahead. He tries his best to escape, but Heck soon realizes that they cannot run any further. He argues with Ricky to stop, and this eventually leads them to a crash. Within seconds, they're surrounded by the police force, and Hector decides to surrender. This doesn't sit well with Ricky, who wants to push his luck till the end. Feeling betrayed, he threatens to shoot Heck if he takes any step further toward the police. However, Heck feels no harm from the kid and simply keeps walking. Meanwhile, the trio of hunters are also present there and try to shoot Hector for their earlier encounters. In a moment of tension and confusion, Ricky accidentally shoots Heck, and they both are finally captured by the police. In the aftermath, we see that Heck is taken in custody, and Ricky is taken in by Kahu's family. Sometime later, after Heck's release from jail, Ricky seeks him out to apologize for the poor note their adventure ended on. Therefore, he invites him to join Kahu's family, who he points out could use Heck's help around their farm. After hesitating for a while, Heck agrees and recites the poem Ricky wrote about their journey. In the final scene, the two head out into the jungle once again in search of a huia, an extinct bird they had rediscovered during their time on the run.